Thank you guys for being here for the beginning of this series. We're really excited. It's called 3 Questions Everybody Has About God. But before we kind of get into the main portion of the series, I just want to ask you a simple question, and it's this. Have you ever had anyone give you some bad information? Yeah, right? Right? This week? Yeah, exactly. Have you ever, any bad recommendations, like restaurants, directions? Anybody? Bad directions? Have you seen the Friends? Okay, Friends. Anybody? Any Friends fans? Okay, anybody seen like most of the Friends? Okay, so there's an episode where I think it's Joey and Chandler. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they've got a map and they're trying to figure something out. And they're like, "You've got to get into the map," and they like put it on the ground, and he's like stepping into it, to try to figure out where to go. That's a bad way to go. Unless if your orientation's right, that might work, but most people don't quite have the orientation of where they're standing right, so maybe that's a bad thing. There's lots of areas in your life where people give you bad advice. And a lot of times you can see that right away because you're like, that's maybe sounds right, but you're not taking that advice. So there, you could kind of see that. But there's some times when people just give you bad information about something. And here's the thing. When you have a question about something, if someone gives you a lame answer, that's really bad. See, lame answers lead to a lame faith. If someone gives you bad answers about God, that leads to a really lame faith, doesn't it? Like if someone tells you he's one thing, but he's really not, that's going to cause some problems for you. We've all had that happen at one point or another. Someone has given us some bad information about who God is or what he wants for us or from us, and that can get really complicated. Because once you have a lame answer, it affects your faith into making it lame, and you don't want that. You want something better than that, don't you? See, wrong answers lead to a weak faith. Lame answers lead to a lame faith, but wrong answers, they lead to a weak faith. And you don't really want a weak faith either, right? You don't want one that's going to be crushed. So if someone comes along and they tells you, you know what? All you got to do is put your trust in God and everything will be fine. That's a bad answer. It's not always fine. I mean, in the end, yes, ultimately, yes. But in your present moment, in your life, when you are experiencing the trouble of it, and someone says, just trust God, it'll be fine, you still have to live through that valley, right? You need him to get through it. And it's not easy all the time. But if someone tells you, yeah, it's just fine, that's just not helpful. In fact, that's a way to destroy your faith, probably. In a lot of cases, that's why a lot of people have walked away from a faith in God, is because what they were told didn't turn out to be what was true. I know I've had those experiences before where I was just told this. It was just going to be like this. It was going to be easy. It was going to be whatever. And it's just not like that, is it? And if you have an easy testimony, you have a testimony where it was really easy, where you just, as soon as you gave your life to Jesus, like everything turned around and it was perfect. That's awesome. Praise God. Welcome to the family. Now that you're 2 months in, I'm telling you, trouble's around the corner. Okay, I'm just going to promise you, trouble is coming at some point. All right? So even if you've never had that experience, you will at some point. You're just young in your faith. Or if you had that experience for 40 years, congratulations. I love that. That's fantastic. But guess what? The life you live here is not forever, and your loved ones, it's not forever for them either here, okay? And it's going to be hard at times. And there's going to be a point in your life where if you're not the first of your friends to go, maybe you're the last of your friends to go. And that's going to be a rough season. I'm just telling you right now, that's going to be rough. So let's prepare ourselves with some good answers about God, because you don't want to be caught in the middle of a valley and think God's not real because they said it was easy. That's a bad answer, right? So wrong answers lead to a weak faith. Incorrect answers lead to an uninspiring faith, don't they? You've seen this, right? I mean, people will walk with you through your struggles, right? And then at some point, they want to see victory. If they never see victory in your life, it's uninspiring. So we want victory in Christ. But if we don't have the right answers, we're going to see that differently. We're not going to quite understand what real victory in Christ looks like. So here's the thing I want to submit to you today. This is kind of the bottom line. This is the thing that I want you to think about. This is the thing that maybe could help you reframe some of this. See, what you think about when you think about something determines how you feel about it. For example, when I see those mixed chocolate things, box of chocolates, life is like a box of chocolate. When I see those things, right, I have very mixed emotions about that. And here's why. One time I was on a trip with my dad. It was a business trip. He was going somewhere. He was in construction. I was young. I was probably 7 or 8. And he said, okay, wait in this office. I got to have a meeting over here. And there's a box of chocolates. He said, grab one if you'd like. Awesome. Great. Thanks, Dad. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to eat as many chocolates as I can get my hands on, right? So I took one, and I made a grave mistake. I did not read the labels to find out what was in this chocolate. And I bit into it straight away and immediately started gagging because it was a chocolate-covered cherry. See? Yeah, your favorite, my worst. Okay, so I immediately after that, I spit it in the trash can. I started throwing up, and I was sick for like 3 days. Now, they're probably not as connected as my mind likes me to believe, right? But that was the thing that triggered everything. And so when I see a box of chocolates, I'm like, okay, hold on. Where's the little map? How do I know what's in these things? Or I need to squish it and kind of spread it a little bit so I can see what's going on and then try to put it back as if nothing happened to it if it's not the one I want. And I'm telling you, what you think about when you think about something determines how you feel about it. I don't feel so good about chocolate-covered cherries. I just don't. I do feel good about other things. In fact, I can kind of prove it to you. Anybody ever got hurt on a trampoline, like a big trampoline? Anybody in here? Yeah, okay. If you got hurt on a trampoline, you feel differently than people who never got hurt on a trampoline. People who never got hurt are like, man, this is awesome. Look at this. I can bounce really high. I can do tricks maybe. Maybe I could do flips. This is amazing. But if you broke a leg or an arm or something, your kids are not doing that. It's just what you think about something. What you think about something when you think about something determines how you feel about something and even can determine how you interact with it, how you can move forward with it, all those sorts of things. But the same is true about God. What you think about when you think about God is really important. So I want to ask you, what do you think about when you think about God? What do you think about when you think about God? Now, there's some pictures that people have in their minds that are pretty common. And we're going to go through a few of these, and we're going to have some fun with these. And there's nothing wrong with these things, per se. I mean, I've had probably most or all of these pictures of God at some point in my life, or a season, or a week, or whatever. And so perhaps this is one of these is your picture. Perhaps this is one that you grew up with. Perhaps this is one that someone's painted for you. But we're going to look through some of these. So give me that first picture. Maybe this is your picture of God, like he's a referee. Like he knows all the rules, and he's throwing the flags, right? He's out there. He sees you. He sees you going about your life. He says, lied, throws a flag. Cut the corner, throws a flag. Not totally honest, cut the flag. Cheats on this, whatever it is. Perhaps there's something in you that sees God somewhat as a referee, as someone who just knows all the rules, and he's out to enforce them. And that's his bottom line. He's out to enforce the rules. Maybe that's your picture of God. Now, if that's what you think about when you think about God, you're going to live your life a certain kind of way, right? And you're going to try to get away with things so the referee doesn't find out. Or you're going to try to tiptoe to the line. How far can I go with this before it actually breaks the rule? And that's going to affect how you live. That's going to affect how you relate to God. Here's another one. Maybe your picture of God is more like Alexa. Anybody have one of these little suckers in your house? It can be great. It can be awful. Depends on who's hooked it up for you and what they've made it do. I was at my dad's house in Oregon last January, and they were showing, my dad and his wife Polly were showing us how cool Alexa is. It's cool, I guess. Anyways, they said, look, we can have it read stories to your kids. I'm like, okay, cool. So Paulie's yelling at Alexa, because that's how you have to talk to Alexa. You have to yell at her for her to respond. Alexa, right? So you can hear things. And she responds, yes, whatever. And she says, read a story. I think you have to be more specific. So she goes through several iterations of commands and then finally gets to read Cinderella or whatever. And then Alexa starts playing a song, right? It's the wrong thing because it's just, it's finicky sometimes, right? So it starts playing a song and she's like, Alexa, stop! She's yelling at Alexa. So anybody ever have a bad experience with Alexa? She just doesn't always do what you want her to do. In fact, I saw a funny video recently of someone, they have multiple Alexas through the house, and they're all connected through the cloud, and they're connected to lights. And there's someone in one room who's sitting in a room, probably the living room or something, and they're on the couch. They don't want to get up. It's the new iteration of the clap on, clap off, the clapper light bulb situation. If you don't know what that is, I'm sorry. I feel old now. So, so in the kitchen, there's someone standing right next to Alexa, and he's like, Alexa, turn off the lights. In the other room, you hear this guy yell, Alexa, turn on the lights, right? And the other guy sees giggling, he goes, Alexa, turn off the lights. And they just go back and forth until the guy in the living room is like out of his mind, crazy mad, just about to go into a rage. And the other guy just keeps going, Alexa, turn off the lights. And I don't know if this is your view of God, not that he's turning out the lights on you, but that he's kind of this thing in the sky that you try to throw commands at, and he doesn't quite do exactly what you want. You're not sure if you got the configuration right. You're sure if you're saying the right things, but he's not quite doing exactly what you want. He's sort of this genie in the sky. I don't know if that's your view of God, but that is some people's view of God. I know I've been there at times. How about this one? This is just an old man, right? He's just an old guy. He's got a beard. I don't know. I do have some of this in my pictures when I think of God, because I always think of a beard for some reason. And I always think of like this older guy, right? Just because he's been around forever, right? And if this is your view of God, this can sometimes feel pretty disconnected from your reality. I mean, this guy wouldn't know what Alexa is or how to work it, right? And he has no idea what's going on with your life today. He doesn't understand the complications of your life today. He doesn't understand all the intricacies of your life today. I mean, he looks like he lives somewhere in the wilderness, and he's got a staff. And if this is your view of God, I mean, he's nice. There's nothing wrong with him. He's just distant, disconnected, a little bit away from your everyday. And if that's your view of God, that's going to be a little bit disconnected from your current reality and your life. And if God's disconnected, if he's not interested in your life now, if he's not involved in your life now, then you might throw up your hands and say, what's the point? He doesn't get it. Now here's another one. It's just a cloud in the sky. Just up there somewhere, kind of hanging out. He's doing his thing. He's like keeping the whole world in his hands or something, but you're not quite sure what he's up to. He's just sort of ethereal. He's just sort of out there. He's just present, but personal, maybe not. Maybe that's your view of God. How about this one? This is meant to be some of a fairy tale scene, okay? He's got his kingdom, and he's got it in order, and that's about it. And there's some sort of fairy tale-ness. In fact, maybe your view of God is that he's actually a fairy tale, that he's not real at all. That or maybe you're on the cusp, or you're on the border, and you're like, I'm not sure if there's anything real about this or not. I'm not sure if he's a completely made-up fairy tale or if he's real at all. And maybe you're somewhere in there, you're trying to figure it out. But if your view of God is that he's a fairy tale, it's not going to have any impact in your life. It's not going to matter at all to you. What you think about when you think about God is going to matter. What you think about when you think about God is going to make a difference for how you relate to him. So the question is, what do you think about when you think about God? I want to submit to you something, and this can be somewhat of a shocking statement, but I'm sure you could find some objection to this statement. But here's what I want to submit to you. If what you think about when you think about God is less than what you hoped he would be, I think that's a bad picture. Let me explain that a little bit, because I'm sure you're coming up, well, yeah, maybe, but let me explain that to you a little bit. If you picture God and he doesn't love you, it's a bad picture. If when you picture God, he's not interested in your life, he's not interested in what's happening with you, I think that's a bad picture. I think that's going to impact you in horrible ways. If he's less than amazing in your mind, I think you've got a wrong picture of God. I think that's going to impact you. So let's try to answer this question. What should you think about when you think about God? Who is he? And we're not going to get crazy deep. I'm not going to go through all the things that the Bible has to say about God. I'm not going to go through all the authors of all the Old Testament and the New Testament and look at everything there possibly could be written about God, the names that are used, the phrases that are used, everything that he's ever done. But if you thumbed through here, you would find a lot of revealing of who God is and what he's done in the world. You would find that he's a creator. You would find that he's personal and has relationship with people. You would find that he's holy and set apart. You would find that he's majestic. You would find that he's gigantic. You would find that no one could look at him. You would find all kinds of interesting things that he's revealed himself in different ways to different people in history. But I want to zero in on one thing. On one thing. See, when you get past the Old Testament and you get to the New Testament and you see suddenly God breaks onto the scene in a new way. And Jesus is born, right? We just talked about that Christmas. Jesus is born. And Jesus starts to point to God. He starts to point. He starts to say things like, when you look at me, you see him. He starts to say some really, really outlandish things for his day. He starts to say, just look at me and you'll see God. And here's kind of what he does. And you guys know this is very, very famous. In fact, if you've never, ever opened the Bible before, you have heard the verses we're going to talk about today. Very short, okay? But it's such a difference maker when you think about God. Here's the thing. He says this in Matthew chapter 6, verse 9. This is Jesus, and he says this. This then is how you should pray. He's setting these guys up. Hey, I want to teach you how to pray. You guys are asking me how to pray. Let's talk about that. This then is how you should pray. He not only defines how to pray, he defines who God is. And he says this, the next two words are this, and you know these words. It's our Father. Our Father. And he starts the prayer with our Father. And here's the thing. Jesus wants us to know that God is not just some distant cloud in the sky, not some fairy tale, not some like guy, the old guy with the cane somewhere in a beard. He's not just all these, he's not like Alexa, and he's not like a referee. In fact, he's much more like our Father. Do you know who prayed like that before Jesus? Yeah, nobody prayed like that before Jesus. Nobody did. It was much more formal. In fact, when you see him say our Father still sounds formal. But it was probably a little bit more like Dad. Dad. Starting a prayer like that. There was one gentleman in the church that I grew up in that he was in the leadership there. And anytime he would pray in front of our church, it was very evident that he had a personal relationship with Jesus. And here's how he would start his prayers. He would say, Papa. Just very informal. He would just say, Papa. And he would go about his prayer. And I was always like, wow, that's bold. Papa. You know, like, hey, Papa. You know, it's just so informal. But he was so genuine in how he started his prayers that I was impacted by that. Jesus does the same thing. This then is how you should pray. Our Father. And you know the rest of the prayer. Right now we're zeroing in on what Jesus said about God. Now think about how that impacts your life. If what you think about when you think about God is Dad, that's different than referee. It's different than cloud in the sky. That's different than Alexa. That's different than all these things put together. It's different. It's more personal and it's intimate. Our Father. He said this because you are his sons and his daughters, and God sent his son, and God sent his Spirit on his son. This is Galatians 4:6, actually. Because you are his sons, God sent the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, the Spirit who calls out, Abba, Father. This is Paul writing to the church in Galatia. He's taking it a step further because he could have used any word, but he used Abba, which is not English. I mean, that's a band, but it's not English, okay? Abba means, basically, daddy. Daddy. That's it. Daddy. That's very informal. That's like 5-year-old informal, right? Daddy. Now, I don't know if that's how you pray. If you start with Dad, Papa, Daddy. I'm not talking like in front of everybody at Thanksgiving when you get asked to pray, which happens to me. I don't know if that happens to you, but I'm always the one at the family gatherings. I'm like, will you pray now? Because you're like professional. And I'm like, we can all pray, but I'll be glad to. And so I get asked to pray, and there's somewhat of a formality in those environments. But just when you pray, when you talk to God, is it formal or is it like, Dad, I was just thinking about, is it a conversation that you're having, or is it like, I'm coming to you with some requests? No lightning. Okay, so I think I've been pretty good today, so I'm going to be pretty bold. I need to be on time today. I don't know what your prayer life is like. But is it formal and sort of jittery and like, I'm not sure if I could say this, or is it free and flowing? And I don't know if this is okay, God, but this is what I'm thinking right now. Can you help me out? Is it more like having a conversation with someone who actually is interested in your life and loves you? Or is it like someone you're coming to hoping that they side with you in your argument? Or that they help you out in whatever it is that you need help with? Or is it more like free-flowing and just like, Father, I was just thinking about how much people suffer, and people I know suffer. And first of all, thank you that life is pretty good right now. And I don't want that to change, but God, someone's hurting that I know, and can you do something about that? I just believe that you want to do something. I mean, how are your prayers? Are they more informal and personal and like you're talking to somebody who's real, or is it like you're like hitting a ceiling and I'm not sure if I'm getting through and I'm not sure if I'm saying the right thing, and is it okay if I open my eyes? And I'm not, how do you pray? Do you pray like you're talking to Daddy and you're like 5 and you're just telling it how it is? Or are you tiptoeing around and trying to make sure you don't cross any lines and get it right? Because I think he wants the raw version that views him as real and interested in your life. And if it's anything less than that, I think you got a bad picture. Here's 3 things that I want you to know today. He loves you, which we talk about all the time. But he really loves you. Yeah, you've heard that. But no, I don't think you get it. He really loves you. Like really, 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 really loves you. Like would die for you, like send his son to die for you, like would come back from the grave for you, like would give you gifts that you can use for the rest of your life to bless other people, like puts you in the context of situations and families and leadership opportunities that is going to impact other people for eternity. And he loves you and wants an engagement with you that you have no idea is there. In fact, I don't think any of us realize how much he loves us or how much he wants us to be in relationship with him. We don't get it all the way. We can't get it all the way. But he's there and he's real and he loves you. He loves you. How about this? He's with you. He's with you. Like all the time he's with you. He's never left you. You may walk away from a season or you feel like you're walking away, but he's just walking right here. And he's like whispering like, hey, turn around. Hey, turn around. And you just keep walking. You know, and you just keep walking. But he's there the whole time. He's just waiting for you to turn around and embrace him. And you're like, I've gone so far. There's no way I could talk to him now. He's right there. All you have to do is, I'm sorry. You know, come on. He's right there. He's with you all the time. How about this? He's for you. He's for you. Like he's really for you. Like there's a great story of Jesus. This is a great story found in the New Testament where Jesus is walking along and he hears about a funeral procession or a funeral that's happening. And he goes over and he disrupts the funeral and he raises the kid from the dead. Okay. That would really disrupt the funeral situation. And the kid's wakes up what's going on here? And his dad's he just disrupted your whole thing. You're alive. Like he's for you, he came for you, and he's coming again. He came for you, he's coming again. If you've ever had an experience where you feel like God really came through for you, you know what I'm talking about. But we have short memories, and sometimes we forget. And we need to be reminded, he's for you. So he loves you, he's with you, and he's for you. So today I want to challenge you in two ways. Maybe you're one of the group or you're the other group. There's going to be two kind of situations. I want to challenge you to remember that he's those things. Remember those things. Remember that he's those things, that he loves you, that he's with you, that he's for you. And you can't change that, by the way. You can't change that. I want you to remember that today. If you remember that, if you'll recall that, if you'll engage with that, you will leave more free than when you came in, I promise you. Now, you may be part of the second group. The second group is I want you to start talking to God like he actually cares about you, to start unloading on him what you're bottling up inside that's killing you, that's bringing you down, and that's causing issues in your life. I want you to unload those things on him. I don't want you to unload those on other people. I want you to unload those things on God. Other people can't carry all that. They can help you sometimes, but God wants to hear it from you. That's why you don't have to confess to me. You can go straight to Jesus, okay? You can go straight there. He's the source of life. I'm not. Sorry to disappoint you. I'm not the source of life. I'm not God. I'm not Jesus. I'm human like you. I'm broken like you. But I have to go to the Father every single day to gather my strength. And I know you do too. I'm going to call the band back up. They're going to play a song. And this song is really, 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 really powerful if you listen to the lyrics. It is simply communicating that God is your Father. And what you need to do every day is to run to your Father. Run to your Father. Run to your Father with your happiness, with your sadness, with whatever feeling is going on, whatever situation is going on in your life, whatever is holding you back and whatever is propelling you forward. You run to your Father with that stuff and you invite him into the mix. And even if you're not sure, even if you're like, I'm not even sure you are real, why don't you pretend for a while and see what happens? Just invite him in. Be open to it. Say, God, if you're real, do something in my life that is undeniable. Do something in my life that I can't run away from. Something that would take me like my whole life to discount. If you're kind of stuck in your faith a little bit and you're not sure how to kind of move forward with it, or you feel like it's stale, or you feel like maybe you've had a bad picture, you feel like maybe he's been uninterested or uninteresting, I want to challenge you to think about God as your dad. Now, I know there's a certain part of us who are like, Dad, that's not a real good picture for me because I didn't have a good one, or I didn't have one at all. He's not that. He's the perfect Father. The one that you would wish for, the one that is always there, the one that will always be there, the one that cares for you no matter what, the one that will never throw you out, the one that wants a real relationship with you, and the one that would die for you. Not the one maybe that you experienced, or the one that was sometimes good, or the one that you maybe try to be but can never be. He's perfect. He's your dad. He wants a real relationship with you. So remember that. Or start thinking about it. And start engaging with him like that's true. And I promise you, your life will be different. It'll be better. He loves you. Father, Dad, Papa. Help us to just acknowledge your realness, that you are involved in our lives, that you want to be in our lives every single day, what you've done for us before we were born, and what you continue to do, creating us anew in Christ Jesus. God, help us to know for real how much we matter to you, and therefore how much you matter. God, help us to realize how personal you really are. And help us to really make you a part of our everyday lives. Not going through any day without acknowledging and recognizing that you are there with us, that you love us, and that you are for us. How different would our lives be, God? Show us. In Jesus' name.
I've carried a burden for too long on my own, and I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation to let it all go. And I see it now, I'm laying it down. I know that I need you. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, the reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again. You saw my condition, had a plan from the start. Your son for redemption, the price for my heart. And I don't have a concept for that kind of love. I don't